Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and I'm the crochet designer slash business strategist here behind A Crafty Concept. In today's video, I have a much requested, highly anticipated tutorial for you guys. I'm going to show you how to make the closed Claire Bun Beanie from start to finish. So I released the Claire Bun Beanie pattern many moons ago. It went viral. I've sold a ton. I've sold a lot of the finished pieces. I've sold a lot of the pattern. So the Claire Bun Beanie pattern is my most known design. It's how I'm most known across multiple communities. Not just the crochet community, but like all of my friends and family who know that I crochet know me because of the Claire Bun Beanie. So it is a very special design that is very close to my heart. I have the full video tutorial for how to make the messy bun version. I never created the video for how to make the closed version, so you can close the top and add a palm or just leave it without a palm. So I am making that for us here today. You can find the free version of this pattern on my blog, the PDF version down below. You can also find the messy bun beanie version on my blog and the PDF version down below. Very quickly before we get started, I do want to let you know that there is a freebie that goes with this pattern. It is a sheet of beanie product tags that you can use to attach to your finished closed Claire Bun beanies when you sell them at your market or package them to your Etsy customers. You can find the freebie link down below. If you sign up to the Crafty newsletter, it will be sent to you in your inbox automatically. I think that's all of the chit chat. If you're liking what you're hearing so far and you want to hit that thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you want to go the extra mile and hit that subscribe button, we can get this party started right now. And that way you can see all future videos that I post here on my channel. Mostly all you're going to see is free crochet patterns and business tip tutorials to help you run your crochet business. Let's hop on over to my table and see what you need to make yourself a closed Claire Bun Beanie. Here is what you will need to make a closed Claire Bun Beanie. I will be using my J 6.0 millimeter crochet hook. This is Clover & More brand. I highly recommend it. A tapestry needle, a pair of scissors, worsted weight yarn of your choice. I am using linen. I love this yarn. Quick disclaimer, all number 4 worsted weight yarn is not the same. I have a yarn experiment post that I did back in the day showing Claire Bun beanies made with different worsted weight yarns and how they worked up. I will link to that in the description below so you can check it out and get a better idea of which worsted weight yarn in your stash you want to use. This is the color linen and it is of Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn. This is my most popular beanie when it comes to finished piece sales. Everybody always wants to buy the linen. So if you do not have this color in your Etsy shop, I would recommend adding it ASAP if it matches your brand and if you think your ideal customer would like it. Last, you're going to need a pom-pom. This is optional. I like to add a big fluffy pom on the tops of my beanies, but if you don't want to use a pom, you don't have to. I will also be adding a wooden tag that says A Crafty Concept. I get these from All This Wood on Etsy, and I will put an affiliate link down below for you. I will also try to find a place where you can buy poms like this one down below as well. This just in. Handmade faux fur poms are now available in my shop. You can find a link to them down below to see the different pricing options and the different colors that are available. Let's go ahead and grab, I'm going to be using 2 partial skeins because I can attach them easily, and I will show you how I attach a new skein once we get to that point because it's really super simple. For reference, I can make 2.5 messy bun Claire Bun beanies from 1 7-ounce skein of I Love This yarn. So we should be able to get 2 beanies from 1 skein of I Love This yarn. So if you are trying to do your math to figure out how much yarn you need, 7 ounces of I Love This yarn should make 2. You can look up the yardage on Hobby Lobby's website if that's helpful for you. So let's grab our hook and our yarn and start making the brim of our beanie. Okay, we are going to start by making a slip knot. This is how I make mine, just like that. And then we are going to chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just a little pro tip, you can adjust the playback speed of the video that you're watching on YouTube. So if you want it to go slower, you can make it slower. If you want it to go faster, you can make it faster. So if you would like to see any of the stitches that I do in extreme slow motion, you can adjust that on your own end. Now we are going to single crochet 9 back down our starting chain. We're going to skip the chain closest to our hook, and we're going to place our first single crochet in the next chain space. I yarn under instead of the traditional yarn over. That's just how I taught myself. It's faster for me. This is just how I'm more comfortable. So you can yarn under or over, whichever way you are more comfortable. But we're going to single crochet 9 back down our starting chain. 8 and 9. Then we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. Something that's very important is you do not want to make your chain 1s too tight. If you make these have like really super tight tension that are like angry chain 1s, your brim will not stretch appropriately to fit heads. So don't make your chain 1s too tight. Just kind of gently chain 1. It doesn't have to be loose tension, but just like gentle, not angry crocheting tension, chain 1. Then we're going to turn our work. Now we are going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way down, again for a total of 9 single crochets, but this time we are going to be putting our stitch in the back loop only. So normally we go here under both loops. This is the front loop, this is the back loop. We're going to be going just under the back loop. So not under the front loop, and that's where we're going to place our single crochet. We're going to do that all the way down. This is the rib stitch, and it gives that nice ribbed brim texture to our closed Claire Bun Beanies. After we get down with our 9th single crochet, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to continue repeating that row until we have 50 total rows of brim. So this is row 3, single crochet 9 in the back loop only, chain 1 and turn your work. We're going to do that until we have 50 total rows, and then I will come back and we will continue after that. Okay, after we finish our 50 rows, I'm going to show you a few little tips and tricks here. So your work will be on the left-hand side of your brim, and your starting tail will be on the right-hand side of your brim. So you know that you're on an even number row if your tails are on opposite sides. That's a little trick that I've come up with to help me know where I'm at when I'm crocheting without counting or thinking. Another trick is how to count how many rows that you've done. Once you get to this point, if you want to just keep crocheting and you're not sure how many rows you're on and you need to stop and count, this is what I do. I look at the peaks and the valleys. So a peak is 1, and then a valley is 2, and then a peak is 3, and then a valley is 4. So I like to just count my peaks by 2s. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 32, 4, 6, 8, 42, 4, 6, 8, 50. So I know that that's how many rows that I have, and I just count my peaks, and that helps me. So if that doesn't serve you, feel free to ignore it, but if it helps you, feel free to adopt it. Now we're going to join our brim together. We're going to make a circle like this, and then we are going to be looking at our work from the row we just completed, and we're going to slip stitch all the way up to join these two together. So we're going to insert our hook into the first stitch of our last row, and then insert our hook into the same stitch, the matching stitch in the other row at the end, so our first row. And then that's where we're going to place our first slip stitch, just like that. That's 1. We're going to do that all the way down, making sure to go through both sides of the brim. That's 2, and we are just joining it together. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now we are going to chain 1, get our tail out of the way, chain 1, and flip our work right side out. So currently this is the wrong side. That's just because that's where the seam is. We're going to flip our work right side out. So the seam is on the inside of our beanie now. Now we are going to crochet row 1 of the body of our beanie. So this is the brim. We're moving on to the body, and we're going to start with row 1. We are going to single crochet in the raw edge of our brim, making our own spaces for our hook to go. And we're gonna need to get a total of 55 stitches. So you may be thinking, Ashley, that's tiny. Look how tiny that is. How's that gonna fit an adult head? Well, let me show you. The rib stitch is extremely stretchy. That is how it is designed. It is designed to fit while being stretched. You don't want it to be stretched to its max, to like further than this. Like you want it to be stretched as far as the yarn wants to go. You don't want to be like straining the yarn. Then if that's the case, you're going to either need to go up a hook size, use thicker yarn, or add more rows. But we want it to fit while it's stretched onto our head, but not at its max capacity. So we have 50 rows of the brim, but we need 55 single crochets around for our body. This is going to help create a mushroom shape of our hat, that's what we're going for. So to do this, we're going to need to increase 5 times. So I'm going to start by placing a single crochet in this area right here. Right up next to there, that is my slip stitch, I believe. So we're going to start over here. That's going to be the end of this row right here, but we're going on the raw side. So you just kind of insert your hook under that little spot, and that's where we're going to place our single crochet. That's one. And then the next one is going to look like a hole. See how that kind of looks like a hole? That's where we're going to place it, and that's 2. And then the next one looks like a bar, which is what the first one looked like. I call this a bar, and I call this a hole. It depends on which side of the row you're looking at. So we're going to put this one here. That's 3. And then we have a hole. That's 4. A bar for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we're going to increase. We're going to put our next stitch in that same spot. So that's 9. And then we're going to put 10 in that same spot. So if you don't want to put your increases where I put mine, that's totally fine. You just need to evenly space them out as best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. As long as they're not all clumped up together or all on one half of the brim, as long as they're all the way around the brim, you're going to be fine. So just place 5 increase stitches along row 1 of the body. But if you are a numbers person, just keep following along. So that's 10. Now we're going to go 11 is here because that was my bar stitch where my increase was. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then 20. I like to put my increases where the bar is, not the hole, but 20 is going to go here, and then we're going to increase for 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Then we're going to increase in the next one. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. And then I'm going to go ahead and increase in that one. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, and then I'm going to increase again for 50 in that same spot, and then we should have 5 left. 51, 52, 53, 54, and then 55 is going to go over here. 55, we're going to join into the top of our first single crochet, not the chain one. Chain ones do not count as a stitch in this pattern, so we just pretend they're not even there. Join into the top of your first single crochet, and then we chain 1. Now we are going to start our puff rows. The key to the puff rows is making sure your starting puff alternates its position. So our first one is going to go right up next to the starting chain. You can see there that that's the starting chain. And then our second one is not going to be next to the starting chain. The second one, this is the first puff of the second puff row, the third body row. But the last one is right up next to the chain. Your first puff will dictate where your seam will go. If you put all of your first puffs right up next to the chain, your seam will go like this. If that's what you're going for, that's how you do that. If you want your seam straight up the back, do what we do here. in this video. So we're going to put our first puff stitch in that same space where we just joined our yarn. So on the top of that single crochet where we just joined our yarn. To do a puff stitch, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the space, grab your yarn, pull up a loop. You're going to do that 3 more times for a total of 4 times. Yarn over, go into the space, grab your yarn, pull up a loop. That's 2. Yarn over, into the space, grab your yarn, pull up a loop. That's 3. And one more time for 4. Now we have all these loops on our hook. Let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 total loops on your hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 9 loops in one swift moment. This is why I recommend Clover and More hooks, because they move through the yarn like butter, and when you have so many stitches like that together, it can be difficult if your hook is sticking. Then we're going to chain 1 to close up that puff stitch. Now I'm going to put a stitch marker in the top of my puff stitch. That was the chain that we did. This is the top of the puff stitch. I'm just marking that now so you can see that's where we're going to join at the end, because it looks confusing. You might think this is the top of the puff stitch because it's on top of the puff stitch, but that is actually the chain we just did, and this is the top of the puff stitch. So keep that in mind when you come around to the end of this row to join. Now we are going to skip the next space and then puff stitch in the 3rd space. So again, yarn over, I yarn under. I know, I say yarn over, that's the term, that's just common crochet designer speak, but I yarn under because that's just how I taught myself. But it's totally fine for you to do it however you want. This is just faster for me. And I'm all about faster because if you're selling finished pieces, you need to get these things out the door, right? So we're just going to do another puff stitch and then chain to close it. Skip the next stitch and puff stitch in the next stitch. So we're skipping stitches because the chain 1 that we do kind of takes the place of those stitches. And then we're puffing in every other stitch. So I'm going to do that all the way around. I believe we're going to have 28 puffs total for each round. And then we're going to come back and get ready for round 3 of the body, which is our 2nd row of puff stitches. Sorry, I keep saying round. We are not working in the round. We are working in rows. Chain 1 and go to the next one. We're not turning our work though. We will be facing the right side of our work the whole time. So let me finish this row and I will come back. Okay, we are almost back to where we started. I have 1 puff stitch left. Now we are going to join into the top of our first puff stitch, but let's count first and see how many we have. I believe it should be 28. 28, perfect. Join into the top of our first puff stitch. Chain 1, and now we can get ready for row 3 of our body, which is our 2nd puff stitch row. Our first puff stitch is going to go all the way over here into this chain 1 space. We are not going in the same space where we just joined like we did for the previous row. That will give us a very slanted seam. We are going to go all the way over here. That's where our first puff stitch is going to go. So yarn over, go into that chain 1 space, not actually through the chain, but just in the actual space that was created from the chain. Finish out your puff stitch, chain 1. Then we're going to puff stitch in each chain space all the way around, giving us again the total of 28 puff stitches. And then we're just going to alternate between rows 1 and 2's starting point until we have 8 total rows of puff stitches. If you've ever made the messy bun version of this pattern, we have 7 total rows of puff stitches before we start our decreases to kind of close up the top. For this beanie, we're going to have 8. It's going to make it slightly slouchier. If you want your beanie to be more fitted, just do 7. Don't do 8. But we're going to do 8 here together. I like the slouchy look. I think it's trendy. I also have child size and baby sizes for this beanie. Newborn up to toddler. So to make a child size, you would just follow the adult size, but use an H crochet hook instead of a J. That's how I make my child sizes. But for toddler through newborn, the patterns differentiate from one another, and I have videos for every single size. So I will link all of those videos in the description for you so you can check them out and make closed Claire Bun Beanies for everybody in your family. They also do really well in my Etsy shop. I don't know what it is about the puff stitches and the rib stitch together, but people are obsessed with it and they love the look of it. I guess and also in linen, like people really like the color linen too. But I do sell, sometimes I sell, I guess my other best sellers would be black, medium gray, and then a variegated, I love this yarn called gray black. Those are my top 4 best sellers, hands down. I'd say after that, we would say dark olive or maybe mustard for anybody who's interested in adding some colors to your shop or trying to choose colors that you think would sell well for you. Those are the ones that sell well for me. Okay, that is our last, just kidding. We have one more puff stitch because we need to make our last puff stitch right up, hugging up close to our chain. So we have one more. And that's going to give us our 28 puff stitches. Join into the top of our first puff stitch, not the chain 1, that's the chain 1. Join into the top of our first puff stitch and then chain 1. Now for row 4 of the body, which is our 3rd row of puff stitches, we're just going to repeat row 1, which means our first puff stitch is going to go in that same space where we just joined our yarn. So we're going to yarn over, go right there in that exact same spot. And that is where we will put our first puff, and then we're going to alternate back and forth until we have 8 total rows. I'm going to do that off camera because it's literally just the same thing. As long as you keep alternating back and forth where you put your first puff stitch, you will have a nice, beautiful, straight seam right up the middle of the back of your beanie. I'll come back when I need to join new yarn because this one will run out while I do my 8 rows here. So I'll be back in just a minute to join new yarn and to show you a trick, a little sneaky trick. Sorry, I was learning how to use Google Calendar for my family while I crocheted. Let me get that out of the way. Now we have come to the end of my yarn. And I'm going to show you my little trick to add a new skein of yarn. I'm going to show you what I do when I'm almost to the end of a skein, and hopefully this will be a really helpful tip that you can use to start using up your partial skeins too. So we're going to make our next puff like normal, 3 and 4, but before we pull our yarn through, before we do that, we are going to cut our yarn very close to where we're at, like about right here. So when it does pull through, it is hidden. So let me grab my scissors. We will cut our yarn. It's about right there. And then we will unwork that puff stitch. Okay. Now we will use, I don't know if it's called the magic join or the invisible join. I have no idea. It's called something. It's a thing. I didn't make it up. But now we are going to join these 2 ends together. So I got my new skein and my old yarn. Just so you know which is which because they're the same color. New is going on top of the old. So this is my new one. This is my old one. And then I'm going to hold them with my thumb. Actually, I can't do it. I'm having a little brain fart. Okay, sorry. I've got it figured out. I can't do it in slow motion. I just got to do it and not be thinking about it. And if I think about it, I'll psych myself out. Okay. Bottom, new yarn, old yarn. We're going to wrap around the thumb and under the pointer finger with the yarn. We're going to do that twice. That's 1, that's 2, and then we're going to wrap in front of those 2 tippies. So just in front of those 2 tippies, okay? Then I'm going to take these tippies and shove them down under my thumb. So over that last little loop and then under my thumb. And then I'm going to pull this new yarn, the new yarn tail. I'm going to pull it tight, very slowly. And it is going to grab a hold of those tail tippies. And now it is snug as a bug in a rug. You can pull it as hard as you want to, unless your yarn breaks, like it should be pretty secure. And now we are going to do our puff stitch and just hope that it lines up. Usually it does. Sometimes you have to do it a little bit more and like loosen or tighten your tension just for that one puff stitch, but let's see how we did. So we're gonna do a puff stitch right here. 4, okay, that's where we're at right now. Grab my yarn and pull through and the little knot is going to be housed under your puff stitch. Isn't that clever? A clever little trick I taught myself when I was making 1,000 of these because my shop went viral. It was wild. Now I'm just going to continue puffing around until I get my 8 rows of puffs, which is the 9 rows of my body, and then I will be right back. But I just want to show you that it's not even, you can't even tell. Looking good. Okay, I just finished completing my last puff stitch in my 8th row of puffs, my 9th row of my body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to join into the top of our first puff stitch and chain 1. Now we're going to start our decrease rows to kind of shape it like this. Instead of, we've been going like this, we've been growing, now we're going to shape it to make it beanie shaped. If you wanted yours to be less slouchy, you would just leave off this row I just did and you will be down here with 7 rows of puffs. We're going to start with the next row, which is 8, 9, row 10. We're going to put a puff stitch in the first 3 chain 1 spaces. So we're going to do 3 different puff stitches. That's 1. That's 2, and then 3. Okay, now we're going to puff stitch decrease over the next 2 spaces. Puff stitch decrease is super simple. I'm going to show you guys here very, very slowly. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the space, grab our yarn, pull up a loop. We're going to do that 2 more times. So not the total, not 4 like we normally do, just 3 total times. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on our hook instead of 9. And then we're going to do the same thing in the next space. So yarn over and then go into the next chain space for 3 loop and grabs. Okay, yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook. That one got a little sloppy because I was doing it in slow motion. Let's try it again. Yarn over, pull through all the loops on your hook and chain 1, and that completes our decrease. Now we're going to do 3 puff stitches again. That's 1. Whoop. That's 2. Oh my goodness. Okay. Last one. That's 3. And now we are going to do another puff stitch decrease over the next 2 stitches. So over these 2 chain 1 gaps, we're going to do another decrease. 3, 1, 2, 3. Yarn over and pull through all the loops and then chain 1 to complete it. Then we're going to do 3 more puff stitches. That's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then we're going to puff stitch decrease. I know that my puff stitches are really fast. It's because I could make this beanie in my sleep. I have made so many. 2 and 3. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you can change the playback speed and slow it down if that would be easier for you. You have total control over that. Doing my decrease stitches. There we go, and chain 1. And then I'm going to keep doing 3 puffs and then a decrease, 3 puffs and a decrease until I get back to the beginning. So I'll do a couple of these and then I'll be back. Okay, I did a decrease. I've been going around, but I did decrease, puff, puff. I got 1 puff left, and that's perfect because we have 1 space left. And then I will tell you how many puffs that we have in this row. Chain 1, join into the top of our first puff stitch. And then that row had 23 puffs. So we had 5 decreases in that row. Now for row 11, we're going to puff stitch decrease over the first 2, right here and here. So remember, our first one is going to reach all the way over here, but we're going to decrease over these 2. That way we can straddle this decrease with 2 puffs on each side, and I think that makes it have a cleaner look. So we're going to start with a decrease stitch this time. 1, 2, 3, and then the next one. 1, 2, 3, pull through all to complete our decrease, and then we're going to do 2 puff stitches. and they go on either side of the previous row's decreases. So puff stitch and then puff stitch. We're going to do that all the way around. Decrease, puff stitch, decrease, puff stitch, puff stitch. All the way around, and then we will come back when we get to the end. Okay, I just finished a decrease, and now we have one space left. So we're going puff, puff, decrease, all the way around, but we only have one space left. So after our last decrease, we're just going to have one more puff stitch there, and that's okay. And now we will join into the top of our first puff stitch, which was the decrease, and chain one. Okay, that is way too big. Sorry, gotta redo it. That's gonna drive me nuts. Okay, join into the top of our first one and chain one. Let's see how many puffs we had in that row. 17. So there were 17 total puff stitches in that row. Now we're gonna do the next row, which is row 12. We're going to start by putting a puff stitch here in the first space closest to our chain, and 4, and then we are going to puff stitch decrease over the next 2 stitches. So a decrease, that one and this one, 3, chain and pull, or don't chain, just pull through all of those for your decrease, chain 1, and continue to do that all the way around. Puff stitch, decrease, puff stitch, decrease, all the way around for the whole row. Y'all, I am running out of yarn. I am playing yarn chicken. I do not know if we are going to make it. It is going to be very close. That makes me very sad. But sometimes that happens, and if it happens here, I will show you how I will fix it. I will not be frogging this beanie though, so that's not the answer. Be right back. Okay, I did a puff stitch decrease and then a puff stitch. Now it's time for another decrease, but I don't have enough space for a decrease, so we're just going to land here on a puff stitch in that last space. Join into the top of our first puff stitch and chain 1. Okay, looking good. Now we are going to puff stitch decrease all the way around. So we're going to puff stitch decrease. So the way it's going to line up right now is if we puff stitch decrease over these 2 stitches, it's going to make our puffs directly on top of one another, our decreases. I do not like that. That would not look like the rest of the beanie. That would look like a different stitch. So we're not going to do that. We're going to start by placing a puff stitch here in the first chain 1 space, furthest from our chain here. And then we're going to puff stitch decrease over these next 2. So we're straddling a puff stitch with a decrease instead of putting a decrease on top of a decrease. I'm not going to make it. We shall see. Yarn chicken, the suspense. And then we're going to continue to puff stitch decrease around, and it should be on top of a puff stitch each time and not on top of a previous row's decrease. And we'll probably just do this one all together because it's just going to be a few stitches. And we can be suspenseful together to see if I'm going to make yarn chicken or not. Pull through all of them. Next one. We might make it, you guys. It's going to be really close. Next one is a decrease. Okay, and a 2 and a 3. Let's see what we got left. Okay, we're just going to end on a puff stitch because we don't have 2 spots left. We just have 1 spot. So we're going to put a puff stitch right there in the last one. We're going to make it. We're going to make it. Chain 1, join into the top of our first puff stitch and chain 1. Now let's count. 7. There'll be 7 puff stitches in the round. Now we're just going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch all the way around this little opening. So we're just going to single crochet this time going into the chain spaces and the tops of the puffs. So we're going to start by putting our first one where we just joined and place our single crochet there. That's 1. And then this was a chain. We're going to put it there. That's 2. Top of a puff stitch in the actual stitch, not around it like we did with our other puffs. I like to go in the actual stitch for these ones. This is just gonna help us have a nice, clean tippy to our hat here. And it should be 14 stitches because we had 7 puffs in the previous row. Oop. Making sure to go under both loops. Okay, and now we can join into the top and tie off. I'm not gonna cut my yarn since it's so small anyway. Woohoo! We won Yarn Chicken! That was very, very close. Okay, now we are going to take our tail and our tapestry needle and close up this little opening here with the invisible close, magic close. I don't know what it's called, but I'm going to show you what we do. We use a tapestry needle, and then we are going to insert it from under and up, so down and out, this front loop only, just like that. So, and then we're going to whip the nose around and pick up the front loop only of the next stitch. Then we're going to whip the nose around and pick up the front loop only of the next stitch. And then we're going to pull through, and we're going to do that for all 14 stitches, making sure to pick each of them's front loops up, each of the front loops, picking them up, just like this. And after you get 2 or 3 or 4 on there, you can pull your yarn through, just nice and taut. We're not pulling it through as tight as you can right now. We'll do that in a minute. So picking up all these stitches, just the front loops, just the front loops. Okay, and now we should be back. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that one. We're back to the beginning, and we are going to pull our tail, and it should very nicely close up our hole here. I'm trying to make it so you can watch the magic. See? Very nice. Nice and clean. So pull it really snug, and then I just like to run my tapestry needle through those stitches one more time, and then pull it again, and then knot it and tie off. So this is what we're closing and sewing in our tail at the same time. And we still have to sew in our first tail and attach our tags and our beanie. I have a video showing how I attach my tag. I will link that below. I have a video showing how I attach my my poms. I will link that below. So you can check those out if you would like. The way I attach my poms is different than what we're gonna do here. So you can watch 2 different ways if you want. Now I'm going to put my tail into the inside of my beanie and knot it in there, and then cut my yarn. So we're on the inside, and I'm just gonna kind of go under some stitches like that and knot my yarn like so. And then you can hide it one more time if you just don't want that sticking out like that. Just going under some stitches. Okay, and then you can cut your yarn. Now I'm going to attach my pom, and I forgot to say this at the beginning of the video, but you're gonna need a button for this method. If you don't have a button and you don't wanna do this method, you can watch my video for the other method that is already live and linked below. So I'm gonna go grab my button. So you can use either just a regular button. It doesn't really matter the size. It's gonna be hidden on the inside of your beanie, or you can purchase a custom faux fur button from, I don't remember who that's from, but you can get it on Etsy. I don't remember who gave it to me. I'm so sorry. If it was you, let me know, and I will link it in the description. But you can use these, or you can just use plain buttons that you have in your stash. And we are going to attach our poms. So the way my friend Callie makes these poms for me, and the way that she does it is there are all these threads here that she uses. So I like to split them 2 and 2, just like this. And then I will use my tapestry needle. It needs to be able to go through the buttonhole. So if it's too thick, okay, perfect. This is the one that I'm going to use. And I'm just going to insert one side of the tails with my tapestry needle. And then we're gonna drop it down into the beanie. So I like to make sure my seam is in the back center. So this is the front. And I'm gonna drop this down on the right-hand side of where we just closed. This right here, this is where I'm going to drop mine. So that's the center. That's where I'm going to drop the other side. So we're going like, if this was north, east, south, and west, we're going where east would be based on my angle here. Pull it into the inside of your beanie, and then you're also going to go through the button. Just like that. And then pull it all the way through, and don't let it unravel. And then do it again for the other side, like this. And then on the west point, northeast, southwest, okay, pull it into the beanie, and then pull it through the button. I'm going to try to adjust it so you can see what's happening. From the bottom of the button, you don't want, just like the way this one was done, that's through the bottom of the button, you want this one to be through the bottom of the button as well. And then you could pull it through, just like so. And now we're just going to tie it. So I am going to be tying it like I tie my shoelaces. So they are technically removable, but I don't suggest removing it because then you would need a tapestry needle to put it back on, and not everybody has a tapestry needle. Like crocheters and knitters, we have tapestry needles, but regular people, not necessarily. So I suggest wash on gentle, lay flat to dry, and I've never had any issues. But if your palms are not machine washable at all and you need to make them removable, they make some attachments that are like those little buttons that you squeeze and it opens the opening and you can pull it off. That's what I would do. I would do something that's very user-friendly for non-crafty people, right? So I'm just going to make sure it's nice and snug, and then I'm going to tie it like I'm tying my shoe. But I'm going to do it a little different. So I pulled through like I'm getting ready to tie my shoe, but then I'm going to do it again. So like a double pull through, and then I'm going to pull it nice and tight, trying to not snap my yarn because I have done that before. And then I'm just going to make it like a shoe, tying a shoe, just like that. And then we're going to make it like a double knotted shoe. So honestly, this is not the best method if you're trying to make a removable palm. But mine are wash on gentle, lay flat to dry, and I've never had any issues. So I double knotted it. Now I'm going to cut my tails so they're not so long up in that hat. And she's done. I will attach my tag off camera another day, but this is what it will look like. Beautiful, polished, finished, ready to make somebody's day. I love it. I wasn't planning on trying this beanie on, but I already have makeup on because I was filming earlier today, so why the heck not? So I will show you what this beanie looks like on, even though I don't have my tag and I haven't sewed in my first tail, but we're just gonna shove it in there, nobody's gonna know. Also, I don't have my glasses on, so my eyes are doing weird things. I will put them back on after I put the beanie on my head, but sometimes it's difficult to wear beanies when you also have glasses. So beanie first. Then I would add my glasses, and another thing that makes these difficult is they're not rounded on the end. Well, there we go. They're not rounded on the end because these were gifted to me from a company, TJIN Eyewear is where they're from, and I never got them rounded. So they pooch out, and so they're gonna stick out of the back of my beanie. But you can still get an idea. Beanies are not great for glasses wearers. If you are a glasses wearer, you know the struggle is real. Oh my gosh, how cute is this? I love it so much. Customers are going to love it. If you splurge and buy the handmade bougie palms and the custom little tags, it really takes your beanie from good to great. I absolutely believe that, and I've gotten a ton of compliments before. This is what we got. I love it so much. 10 out of 10. Okay, now I'm gonna go close us out. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you love this pattern. I can't wait to see all of your finished closed Claire Bun Beanies. If you post any pics on Instagram, I would love to see them. You can tag me at A Crafty Concept, and I will do my best to like, comment, and or share your post. Quick reminder about the freebie. You can get a free sheet of product tags to help you market and package your closed Claire Bun Beanies. The link to grab this freebie is down below. If you have any questions or concerns about your closed Claire Bun Beanie, please let me know in the comments comments. I will do my best to answer every single one of them. If you liked this video and you liked this pattern, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me grow my business and continue to get to do what I love to do every single day. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're interested in seeing more free crochet patterns and crochet business tips. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for being here. Have a fantastic day and a wonderful rest of your week.